Hello and welcome. You're watching the newsroom. I am Thomas Porteous, and it has been an eventful today here in the newsroom. Of course, we have seen developments coming out of the United States, the Middle East, and Europe, from Jimmy Lai's conviction to Iranian and US diplomacy. Today has been nothing short of in entertaining, and that is for sure. But of course, some updates from the ongoing and developing story. New updates, of course, coming out every day about the Epstein files. The UK has been under the spotlight in particular today after revelations and reactions have emerged from the country. The latest tranche of Epstein-related material has reignited scrutiny in the UK. In the political and legal establishment, not just because of these fresh crimes, but because of those who escaped scrutiny. Rema Hans is going to give us further updates on the developing situation over there and tell us a little bit more about the context. Rema, what's going on over in the UK right now?
Yes, Tom, as you correctly mentioned, that United Kingdom is in fact going through a deepened political crisis in the region as far as the Epstein files and its revelations are concerned. This all started with the featuring of Mandelson in the Epstein files, and this has triggered further revelations from the files, and now we are even expecting about 1 lakh documents that will be released in response to this and in reaction of the new revelations of the file and its connections to the UK politicians. Now to take you through the high profile resignations that have followed as a result of this is of course Peter Mandelson, the very first from the Labour Party, and he also happened to quit the House of Lords. Police are saying that they are searching 2 properties now in an investigation into Peter Mandelson's relation and ties with Epstein. Files suggest that Mandelson shared market-sensitive government information with Epstein during the 2008 financial crisis, including some plans for a bailout on a tax on bankers' bonuses. And to note, he has not been arrested yet and inquiries are ongoing. The senior government figures are also preparing to hand over their electronic communications now, which were with Lord Mandelson, ahead of the release of evidence about his appointment as the United States ambassador. Following this, Morgan McSweeney, who was Starmer's chief of staff, also resigned for taking responsibility for advising UK Prime Minister Starmer to appoint Peter Mandelson as the US ambassador, despite being aware of his ties, very close ties with Epstein. Now, very fresh and the latest resignation is by Tim Allen, who is the Director of Communications, who resigned earlier today for allowing a new number 10 team being built under him. Now, I would also like to shift the focus to the royals who are also being questioned and being scrutinized because former Prince Andrew Windsor Mountbatten's pictures were also released earlier this month, and he has, following that, he was stripped off of the title of the prince. The emails indicated that he may have leaked official trade files to Epstein while serving as government trade envoy back in 2010. And another revelation that has come in connection to Andrew is that Thames Valley police are reviewing a new allegation that a woman was taken to Windsor in 2010 for sexual purposes, I quote, related to Andrew. Now to conclude, the government has been forced into a climb down now. As I mentioned before, over 1 lakh documents are likely to be vetted in the upcoming days. And now, Tom, the renewed attention to Epstein files is has now put UK PM Starmer's leadership in question, and also the elite network that is the convicted sex trafficker Epstein. Over to you.
This, of course, is how, as Rema says, a political crisis which is striking the UK right now. Keir Starmer's office saying that he's not resigning now, despite calls both from within and outside his party to do so. We've also just got the UK for Labour head calling for his resignation. They join the flurry of growing number of MPs, both inside Labour and out, calling for the resignation of the Prime Minister, as the Prime Minister now sees the lowest polling numbers in history, in modern history, of a UK Prime Minister. But of course we'll keep tabs on that story and bring it to you as soon as we get it. We now move over to Hong Kong, where in a significant update, self-made billionaire pro-democracy Tycoon has been sentenced to 20 years in jail, that being Jimmy Lai. Of course, this is a significant development for many reasons. It kills this narrative which Beijing pushes forward of the one country, two systems myth. Hong Kong, of course, promised autonomy and freedoms until 2047. This trial shows that promise is dead. It also criminalizes journalism. The prosecution argues that articles, editorials and interviews amount to national security crimes. That's not law enforcement, that is political policemen, according to most critics coming out from liberal democracies, and some even from inside Hong Kong. And it, of course, is a warning shot to everyone else writing and putting out content against the state. Media owners, activists, academics, and even business leaders are being told, toe the Beijing line or pay the price after the conviction of Lai here. It has global implications, of course, something which Rema's going to talk to us about. The Western governments say the trial is politically motivated. China, however, says it is the rule of law which Hong Kong is abiding to, maintaining that it hasn't broken any rules whatsoever. Rema joins us now. She's going to give us a little bit more on this story and the background behind it.
Yes, Tom, this is one of the harshest sentences under the controversial national security law after long years of this case and Lai being scrutinized. And I would like to reiterate, like, this is 20 years of sentencing to now found guilty Jimmy Lai. As you mentioned, there are countries that are supporting the sentences, while there are so many of the countries, including the UK, UN and EU and various other rights groups, which are viewing the charges against Lai as a collusion with foreign forces and sedition, as a direct attack on journalism and the pro-democracy movement. There's also there's another reason why there are there's another reason why the countries are supporting Jimmy Lai against this sentencing. Western governments are saying that this is, of course, politically motivated, and argue that this prosecution is not based on genuine legal wrongdoing, but is instead politically motivated trial designed to punish him for his activism. There are also human rights concerns that have surfaced. The right groups, including the Amnesty International and Reporters Without Borders, have highlighted the harsh nature of his sentencing, with his family and supporters calling it instead a death sentence due to his age and deteriorating health. There's also symbolic importance to this. Lai is seen as a high-profile target used by Beijing to deter future opposition and eliminate vestiges of dissent in Hong Kong. British citizenship is also being seen as one of the reasons why the United Kingdom is supporting Jimmy Lai, and instead seeing this, saying that Lai has received specific support from the UK government Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper, calling for his release and vowing to engage with Beijing on the matter. While Hong Kong authorities have defended the actions, characterizing Lai as a traitor and the mastermind behind anti-China destabilizing activities, and calling for foreign nations to stop interfering in their internal affairs. Over to you.
Rama, thank you so much. Now let's turn to the Middle East for our next story. And as Iran and the United States continue with a fragile manner to negotiate over the Iranian nuclear program, things seem optimistic as they are continuing. That is the most important point. We got a big breakthrough today. Iran has signaled flexibility on enrichment. However, it has given the clause that it will only do so if sanctions are lifted. This statement has come from Iran's atomic energy chief and said that Iran might dilute its 60% enriched uranium stockpile, currently near nuclear weapons grade, if all economic sanctions are indeed lifted. Tehran, however, has rejected proposals to ship enriched uranium abroad and insists on retaining enrichment capability as part of any deal. Now, this contrasts with the United States, which say Iran must stop all enrichment completely, even for civilian purposes. Iran, of course, saying that its nuclear ambitions are for peaceful purposes only. Another development today is that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is flying to Washington to meet with US President Donald Trump, specifically to press on the case of Iran. Now, it is no secret that the Israelis want the toppling of the Iranian regime and for the United States to put more pressure on Tehran. This comes following those protests which saw thousands of people killed, of course, because of an internet blackout. We are not entirely sure how many of those people have killed, and they can't be independently verified. Different numbers are coming from different sources. However, we will expect some developments and, of course, some statements coming from both Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump when that meeting concludes for sure. We'll bring you that as soon as we get it. But, of course, what it is important is that diplomacy is ongoing and that the US and Iran are continuing these nuclear talks that resumed last week in Muscat, Oman, after nearly 8 months off following a war between Iran and Israel, which famously lasted 12 days. Iranian leaders described the recent round as a step forward and a good opportunity to continue the engagement. They are in direct talks, of course, and mediated by Oman, and both sides have agreed to consult in their capitals for the next round. Iran's parliament held a closed-door session on the talks, emphasizing that Iran's nuclear industry must be a red line, non-negotiable. Talks are moving forward, but without a breakthrough yet. Both sides remain wary and are negotiating from very firm positions. Of course, it is unknown how these talks are going forward, but what certainly remains is that both sides remain in very different places. Rema joins us once again to tell us a little bit more about today's developments coming out of diplomacy between the United States and Iran. Rema, what more can you tell us?
Yes, Tom, as you correctly mentioned, that this development can be seen as a complete U-turn from Iran, as they have been completely against the ban of uranium enrichment, as United States have been demanding for it since past couple of months, and this can be an indication that the indirect talks between United States and Iran, which recently happened in Oman, is probably indicating to rather a positive, heading to a positive direction. However, as you specified, Iran has mentioned that they will only agree to cut down the enrichment to 60% if the sanctions are completely lifted on Iran. However, they have not specified whether they are talking about US sanctions on Iran or all over the country. The head of Iran's atomic energy had said that Iran is prepared to dilute highly enriched uranium to 60%, to quote, and will only lift only react on it if the sanctions are lifted. However, despite agreeing to return to talks on its disputed nuclear program, Iran Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has said that the country still hold deep distrust for the United States. Now, this is also indicating to a broadened agenda. The United States is reportedly seeking to expand the scope of the talks to include limits on Iran's ballistic missile program and its regional alliances, both of which Tehran has excluded from the current negotiations. Speaking from the regional perspective, these talks follow a period of extreme tension, including reported US and Israeli military strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, which happened last year in June. The current diplomatic push is seen as a countdown to decide whether peaceful resolution is possible between both the countries, United States and Iran.
Rema, thank you very much for bringing us those updates. We're now moving on to our last story of the hour, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been in the Seychelles to enhance India's strategic position there, and we have seen a deal be announced. Of course, it will see now multiple they've signed multiple operational agreements and not just political declarations. This includes maritime surveillance cooperation, defense training, infrastructure, and capacity building. Why this matters strategically is that the Seychelles sits on critical Indian Ocean shipping routes. The agreement strengthens India's naval awareness, anti-piracy reach, regional credibility. The bigger picture is that it fits India's shift from the symbolic Indo-Pacific diplomacy, practical security partnerships, and also to counter quietly, may I add, to expanding Chinese presence. This is not headline diplomacy, it's long-term positioning from India here. It's not presenting itself as a net security provider, and of course the Seychelles home to India's only military base. Unlike other countries, the Seychelles remains India's core base where it has set up and uses its strategic autonomy there. Of course, Prime Minister will continue to work in India's interests when it comes to this, and yes, it's a significant development when it comes to Indian foreign policy, and of course, as this trip continues, we'll bring you more news on it. And that's all that we have time for now on this today's newsroom. We'll continue to bring you all the updates coming out as soon as we get them, both from inside India and internationally. Thank you very much for joining us.